7. The Bom Jesus. The remarkable discovery of the Bom Jesus, a Portuguese ship that vanished 5 centuries ago, has captivated the world with its extraordinary story. The ship embarked on its fateful journey from Lisbon, Portugal on March 7, 1533, destined for India, and laden with a precious cargo of gold and copper ingots. The mystery surrounding its fate endured for centuries until 2008, when the Bom Jesus resurfaced, quite literally, in the arid desert of Namibia during diamond mining operations along the African coast. It's believed that the ship succumbed to a fierce storm, resulting in a dangerous shipwreck. The storm may have forced the vessel perilously close to the shore off Namibia, where it collided with a rock, causing the hull to tip and capsize. Then, when the coastal waters receded, the Bom Jesus found itself stranded in the heart of the desert. Remarkably, the shipwreck's condition suggests an exceptionally violent storm, yet intriguingly, there's an absence of human remains at the site, aside from a few scattered bone fragments. This seems to suggest that most of the crew either survived the wreck or perished at sea. The discovery took a dramatic turn when archaeologists unearthed a treasure chest brimming with gold coins, conclusively linking the shipwreck to a Portuguese vessel that had disappeared in 1533. Dr. Noli, the chief archaeologist of the Southern Africa Institute of Maritime Archaeological Research, emphasized the significance of this find, noting that it redefined the concept of a ship loaded with gold. Further exploration of the site revealed the presence of bronze bowls, long metal poles that turned out to be cannons, an ancient musket dating back at least 5 centuries, and fragments of metal that hinted at a buried shipwreck. The remains also included compasses, swords, astrological tools, cannons, and even a time capsule, along with silver coins. While the Bom Jesus' specific history remains shrouded in mystery, it's presumed to be a part of the class of naval vessels developed by the Portuguese, designed to be larger, more efficient, and more durable for long-distance voyages. These ships facilitated extended expeditions undertaken by Portuguese fleets during this era. The Bom Jesus was likely on a course for western India via the southern tip of Africa, mirroring the common route used by similar Portuguese vessels with identical cargoes. Today, the Bom Jesus stands as the oldest and most valuable shipwreck ever found off the western coast of sub-Saharan Africa. It was discovered in the region known as Sperrgebiet, Forbidden Territory, named after the numerous German prospectors who explored the area in search of diamonds. The region continues to be subject to diamond mining operations run jointly by De Beers and the Namibian government, making it largely inaccessible. The remnants of this remarkable shipwreck remain under the vigilant protection of mining security, with limited access to the site. There have been discussions about establishing a museum, but whether this idea materializes remains to be seen. 6. Newberry Springs. Newberry Springs, California, was once known for its private lakes that served as a training grounds for water skiing stars like Esther Williams. It also boasted one of the largest populations of tri-colored blackbirds on the West Coast. However, the town has garnered another reputation, one characterized by the haunting remains of houses engulfed by the nearby Mojave River. Among these remnants is a 2-story house that was once owned by Joe and Cheryl Marino. Nearby, houses belonging to the Mintz, Zink, and Wright families were buried north and northeast of Newberry Road in the riverbed. But these eerie scenes weren't the work of aliens, but rather a consequence of Mother Nature taking advantage of a man-made disaster initiated by county maintenance workers. Between 1979 and 1991, these county workers embarked on a mission to clear the sand buildup on Mineola Road, which crosses over the river. They repeatedly dumped the sand on the downwind east side of the road within the Mojave River channel, and over time, tons of sand accumulated, as it was replenished each time the wind blew it away. It puzzled many that the county workers didn't question the disappearance of the sand, but the sand dumping ceased in 1991 when homeowners began to complain. The houses, including Joe Marino's, Marguerite Paduano's, and 6 others, were located along a 6-mile or 10-kilometer stretch of the riverbed. Prevailing westerly winds carried loose sand onto these properties, creating massive 10-foot or 3-meter sand dunes, effectively transforming the area into a vast sandbox. homeowners filed a lawsuit against the county in 1992, seeking approximately $6 million to facilitate their relocation. And in response, the county countersued, deflecting blame and accusing residents of exacerbating the problem by extracting excessive water from the aquifer, thereby destabilizing the desert floor. The remains of these homes tell a story of abandonment and loss. Houses have gradually become more exposed as the winds uncover them, and nearby, the husks of 2 additional houses stand as witnesses to their unfortunate fate. Tragedy struck once more when, in April 2000, a fatal attack occurred. 10-year-old Cash Carson, weighing 66 pounds or 30 kilograms, was mauled to death by dogs. The pit bull chow mix named Bear and a smaller mixed breed pit bull named Louise encountered Cash and his playmate Danny Gonzalez while walking near the property where caretaker James Chiavetta was responsible for the dogs. Chiavetta was convicted and sentenced to 4 years in state prison as a result of the attack. Today, the abandoned houses and the chilling history of Newberry Springs offer us a glimpse of the unpredictable and often unforgiving forces of nature and human actions that can reshape communities and lives. 5. Kolmanskop, Namibia's ghost town. Kolmanskop, a ghost town in the Namib Desert of Africa, holds a captivating history of diamonds, luxury, and colonial violence. Its story began in 1908 when a railway worker, Zacharias Luala, discovered diamonds while clearing sand from railroad tracks. The diamond rush that ensued led to the establishment of a town that produced a significant portion of the world's diamonds, becoming a well of luxury in the desolate desert. Kolmanskop boasted amenities like a butcher, a bakery, a post office, and even European opera performances. However, the town's prosperity was marred by its colonial past. Just 4 years prior to the diamond discovery, the German colonizers had brutally suppressed the Herero Rebellion, resulting in the death of over 60,000 Herero people. Kolmanskop's quick riches drew the attention of German authorities, who imposed restrictions and reserved prospecting rights for a Berlin-based company, displacing tribespeople and forcing them into diamond mines as laborers. Intensive mining and the discovery of richer diamond fields on the southern beach terraces led to Kolmanskop's decline by the 1930s. The town was then abandoned as the dunes reclaimed it by 1956. Today, the remains of Kolmanskop are a haunting attraction, drawing around 35,000 tourists annually. The allure of ruin gazing is not new, as people have been fascinated by broken cities and monuments throughout history. These ruins challenge our perception of progress and remind us of the transience of human achievements. Kolmanskop brings attention to the dark side of colonialism, a somber reminder of a disappearing world, and an evocative representation of the human capacity to build and destroy. Despite conservation efforts, Kolmanskop's structures have shown signs of deterioration, raising concerns about the town's future. In time, it may succumb to the relentless encroachment of the desert, but for now, it stands as an impressive echo of the ever-changing sands of history. 4. Qatar Desert Petroglyphs. In Qatar's northeastern desert, amidst the desolation of sand dunes, lies Al Jassasiyah, a significant rock art site adorned with mysterious petroglyphs. These ancient carvings, numbering around 900 in total, offer a captivating glimpse into the past. While most of the petroglyphs feature enigmatic cup marks arranged in various patterns, some stand out as depictions of sailing ships observed from a bird's eye view. Al Jassasiyah's uniqueness lies in these ship carvings. These creations provide insights into the vessels used in Qatar's flourishing fishing and pearling industries, which were central to the country's economy for centuries. The boats depicted in the petroglyphs are typically fish-shaped, sporting pointed sterns, rows of oars, and various intricate details. They even feature depictions of anchors, highlighting both traditional Arabic and European anchor types. However, the precise age and purpose of these petroglyphs remain shrouded in mystery. While some studios suggest they may be several hundred years old, dating them accurately is a challenging task. Some experts speculate that the high concentration of ship carvings at Al Jassasiyah might be linked to ancient beliefs that viewed ships as symbolic means of transitioning from the mortal world to the afterlife. So you may be wondering, who made these petroglyphs? Well, unfortunately, that's a question that scientists aren't able to answer quite yet. More research is required before the secrets of this desert rock art can be revealed. Visiting Al Jassasiyah is an opportunity to ponder the meaning behind these impressive carvings. The site, located in a remote area, lacks shade, so it's advisable to bring water, wear sunscreen, and a hat when exploring the petroglyphs. The best times to visit are during sunrise and sunset, when the desert's beauty is accentuated. The location is conveniently near Azerbaijani Beach, making it a worthwhile excursion combining history and natural beauty. 3. Plane crash in the Sahara. In 2012, in the desolate Sahara Desert, an incredible World War II relic, a Kitty Hawk P-40 fighter plane, was discovered by Jacob Perka, an employee of a Polish oil company. This remarkably well-preserved aircraft crash-landed on June 28, 1942. The discovery took place in a remote area west of the Nile, situated 200 miles or 322 kilometers from the nearest city. The single-seater fighter plane, despite bearing scars from enemy encounters and the crash landing, appears to have been preserved by the desert's relentless heat. Military historians were able to identify the aircraft as a Royal Air Force plane, one that was piloted by Flight Sergeant Dennis Kopping, who was part of the RAF's 260 Squadron. Kopping was on a mission against German General Erwin Rommel's advancing forces toward Egypt. Ordered to transport the damaged but functioning Kitty Hawk to another airbase in Egypt for repairs, he tragically went off course and vanished without a trace. And his plane remained undiscovered for decades. Although no human remains were found at the crash site, there's evidence suggesting that Kopping survived the initial crash. He seemingly attempted to construct a shelter from his parachute to shield himself from the harsh desert sun. The radio and battery were removed from the plane, indicating his efforts to send an SOS. As no remains were found nearby, it's speculated that he embarked on a perilous journey on foot. But his ultimate fate remains uncertain, leaving his whereabouts a mystery. Efforts are now underway to locate Flight Sergeant Kopping, but the odds of success are slim. In the meantime, the well-preserved plane faces a new danger. The Egyptian military, fearing potential accidents, removed all weapons and bullets from the wreck. The true threat lies in the local population, some of whom have begun to dismantle the aircraft for scrap metal. The proximity of the wreckage to a smuggling route between Sudan and Libya has also made it a target for scavengers. The British Ministry of Defense and the RAF Museum are collaborating to recover the plane. But given the location's sensitivity, the search and recovery teams require an escort from the Egyptian army. This coordination is challenging, and time is running out to ensure the plane's preservation. 2. Ancient city in the Iraqi desert. In the southern deserts of Iraq, an extraordinary archaeological discovery has come to light. A long-lost ancient urban settlement that's believed to date back to pre-Babylonian times. Unearthed in the Tel Duhaila area in D-Kar Governorate, located approximately 19 miles or 30 kilometers from the ancient city of Ur. A group of Russian archaeologists, in collaboration with their Iraqi colleagues, made this remarkable find on June 24, 2021. This newly discovered city joins a list of over 1,200 archaeological sites in the region. The area, once part of the Mesopotamian Delta, is often referred to as the cradle of civilization. It holds historical significance due to its role as a hub of human progress and advancement. Initial speculation suggests that this city might have been the capital of a state established following the political upheaval at the end of the ancient Babylonian era. This turbulent period led to the systematic destruction of the Sumerian civilization's urban life around the middle of the 2nd millennium BC. Artifacts found at the site include an oxidized arrowhead, traces of stoves, and clay camel statues that date back to the early Iron Age. However, the most intriguing aspect of this discovery is that it offers insights into the early development of agriculture using silt in Mesopotamia. The ancient city also contains remnants from the period that preceded the emergence of the Sumerian civilization. Further investigations at the site may unveil items with cuneiform writing in an undisturbed archaeological context, a prospect that's been deemed extremely important by the head of the Russian excavation, Alexei Jankowski-Diakonov. While this is undoubtedly a significant find, it highlights the ongoing challenges faced by Iraqi archaeology. Despite the importance of these sites, a lack of funding and support from the Iraqi government often necessitates the involvement of foreign archaeologists in excavations. Efforts are being made to address these issues. Amer Abdel Razak, the Antiquities Director of Qatar, has recognized the newfound site's significance and registered it with the Qatar Antiquity Department before the Russian team's arrival in Iraq. The head of the Culture, Tourism, and Antiquity Committee in the Iraqi parliament, Sumaya al-Ghalab, stressed the need to secure the necessary funds, protect excavation teams, and develop a comprehensive strategy for archaeological exploration and research covering Iraq's entire archaeological map. 1. Death Valley's underground city of giants. In August 1947, Howard E. Hill recounted an astonishing tale to the Los Angeles Transportation Club about the mysterious discovery of an underground city beneath Death Valley. The story revolved around Dr. F. Bruce Russell, a retired physician from Cincinnati, Ohio, and his colleague, Dr. Daniel S. Bovey. In 1931, while exploring mining opportunities, Russell accidentally stumbled upon a network of tunnels hidden deep beneath the earth. These tunnels extended in various directions, revealing a catacomb of secrets beneath the desert. In one of the caverns, Russell and Bovey made an astonishing discovery: mummified remains of enormous beings, standing 8 to 9 feet, or 2.4 to 3 meters tall. These giants were adorned in peculiar garments resembling dyed gray sheepskin, crafted from an unknown animal. The chamber also held artifacts with resemblances to Egyptian and Native American designs, featuring hieroglyphics carved onto polished granite. The explorers believed they'd uncovered the burial ground of a once revered tribe. Continuing their exploration, they encountered what they described as a ritual hall of the ancient inhabitants. They discovered more artifacts, markings, and the remarkably well-preserved remains of creatures such as dinosaurs, elephants, and tigers, which some later speculated might have been saber-toothed tigers and mammoths. According to Russell, this subterranean world comprised at least 32 tunnels, spanning a vast expanse of 180 square miles, or 466 square kilometers beneath Death Valley and portions of southern Nevada. However, professional archaeologists and scientists expressed skepticism, as the timeline of certain creatures' existence seemed incompatible with the discoveries. Undeterred by skepticism, Dr. Russell and a group of investors established Amazing Explorations, Inc. to publicize and potentially profit from their astonishing find. Yet, the shifting sands of the unforgiving desert concealed the site on subsequent attempts, leading to Russell's disappearance. Months later, his abandoned car was found in a remote area of Death Valley, bearing a burst radiator and still containing his suitcase. As for Dr. Bovey, he vanished into obscurity, distancing himself from the intriguing mystery. This curious story raises questions about the existence of this underground city in Death Valley and the fate of Dr. Russell and Dr. Bovey. Do you believe that they really found a lost underground city of giants and were neutralized for going public with their discovery? Or do you think this whole story is nothing but a hoax?
7. Fort Boyard. Nestled in the eerie silence of the Caspian Sea, a long-forgotten relic of the Soviet era stands as a haunting testament to a bygone era of military innovation. The abandoned Dag Diesel plant, once a bustling Soviet weapon testing site, now rests in desolate isolation, frozen in time. This remote facility, often referred to as the Russian Fort Boyard, is a chilling reminder of the past. Aerial footage of the Dag Diesel plant captured the unsettling solitude of this abandoned outpost, perched on the southern border of Russia's Dagestan, with a view extending over Kazakhstan. In its heyday, this sprawling 55,972 square foot complex played a pivotal role in the development of torpedoes and naval weaponry, housing a community of workers. The infrastructure, predominantly constructed from reinforced concrete foundations and metal structures, now lies in eerie silence. What was once a thriving facility, positioned about 2 miles offshore, boasted a range of amenities, including a hotel for its inhabitants, leisure facilities like a library, and even a basketball court. Dating back to its establishment in 1939, this 3-floor complex featured a commanding lookout tower and the modern comforts of its time, such as spacious living quarters and parquet floors. One of its remarkable engineering feats was the construction of the underwater section known as the Array, which was fabricated by the coast and then floated to its designated location before being submerged. However, this place of innovation and industry has been deserted for over half a century, left to deteriorate into a mere shell of its former glory. Today, the DAG diesel plant has found a new lease on life, but not as intended. It's become a haunting attraction for adventurous thrill-seekers eager to explore a lost world frozen in time. The site's chilling atmosphere, infused with a sense of abandonment, tells a story of forgotten military ambitions and the relentless march of time, making it a compelling destination for those drawn to the eerie remnants of a bygone era. 6. Pripyat, the abandoned Chernobyl city. In the haunting shadows of the Chernobyl nuclear station's catastrophic history is the abandoned city of Pripyat in Ukraine, where time's come to a standstill. Despite the grim legacy of the 1986 reactor meltdown that led to immense devastation, tours of the irradiated towns around Chernobyl are growing in popularity. Established in 1970 to house Chernobyl's workers, Pripyat was once a thriving city of 49,000 inhabitants. It boasted 15 primary schools, a vast hospital complex, numerous stores and gyms, as well as parks, cinemas, factories, and more. It was considered to be one of the most beautiful and luxurious cities in the Soviet Union. However, on April 27, 1986, the entire city was evacuated within 3 hours. This was initially meant as a test to see how much power the Chernobyl nuclear station needed to keep the number 4 reactor going in the event of a blackout, but things didn't go exactly as planned. During this test, the number 4 reactor caught fire, which quickly spread to other parts of the facility. Extensive damage was done to the building as a result. And what's even worse is that the fire caused radioactive chemicals to spill into the air, contaminating millions of square miles and putting countless people's lives at risk. According to the International Atomic Energy Agency, the explosion killed some 30 people, which doesn't seem like that many casualties. But combine that number with the several thousand cases of people who developed cancer, and you've got one of the worst disasters in nuclear history. Today, over 3 decades later, Pripyat remains a haunting time capsule of the Soviet Union in 1986. Communist propaganda still adorns the walls, personal belongings litter the streets, and abandoned buildings stand as solemn witnesses to the past. The city's clock hands remain frozen at 11:55, marking the exact moment the electricity was cut. Contrary to popular belief, Pripyat was never completely abandoned. Military personnel, scientists, and public authorities have used the city as a base for radiation cleanup in the newly established exclusion zone. Remarkably, there's still electricity in some parts, a functional vehicle base, and even operational laundry facilities where workers' uniforms are cleaned. The absence of human presence has been surprisingly beneficial for wildlife, with animal populations thriving in the absence of human habitation. To explore Pripyat and the surrounding villages, visitors must obtain a day pass from the government, usually through tour agencies located in Kyiv, about 68 miles from the Chernobyl site. While safety concerns are relatively low, radiation levels are closely monitored during tours, and they're typically well below lethal doses. Despite the resilient spirit of Pripyat's eerie remnants, the city is gradually being reclaimed by encroaching forests. Time is steadily erasing the traces of human existence, foreshadowing a day when this abandoned city will be entirely consumed by Mother Nature. 5. The Paris Catacombs. Beneath the romantic facade of Paris lies a dark and chilling secret: the Paris Catacombs. This underground labyrinth holds a history that's both terrifying and fascinating. Constructed during the 14th century, these catacombs originated as quarries, providing the stone for iconic Parisian monuments, including majestic cathedrals. However, the price of mining was high, as sections of the ground weakened and collapsed over time. As the city's population surged, it faced a growing dilemma: overcrowded cemeteries and a surplus of waste. And in 1780, the situation reached a gruesome low when human remains were discovered in the basement of a local restaurant. To address the crisis, in 1786, the authorities initiated a covert operation to transfer the surplus remains from overflowing cemeteries into the catacombs. These eerie, clandestine nighttime activities gave the catacombs their first load of human remains. By the early 19th century, the catacombs had become the final resting place for around 6 million souls. The catacombs of Paris, with their dark, bone-filled passages, exude a haunting and unsettling aura. While tourists are now allowed to explore the designated sections, there exists an underground world beyond, accessible only to a secretive group known as cataphiles. These individuals trespass into the restricted catacomb areas, seeking adventure and even conducting ghost hunting expeditions. Venturing into these off-limit zones isn't only illegal, but also perilous. The uncharted catacombs can disorient and terrify trespassers, sometimes leading to tragic outcomes. The catacombs' mystique is undeniable, drawing in those who seek to explore their depths. In this subterranean realm, millions of souls rest in an eternal, eerie silence, a chilling reminder of the city's past. The Paris catacombs remain an enigmatic and unsettling place where the boundary between life and death becomes blurred, making them a captivating yet foreboding destination for those drawn to the macabre and mysterious. 4. Xicheng. Beneath the tranquil waters of China's Qingdao Lake lies a submerged city known as Xicheng, or the Lion City, and its haunting presence is captivating to say the least. This ancient city was intentionally submerged in 1959, a casualty of industrialization when a hydroelectric dam was needed for Zhejiang province. Qingdao Lake, also called Thousand Island Lake, covers a vast 221 square miles and is named after its multitude of islands, of which there are over 1,000. Xicheng's haunting moniker, the Lion City, stems from its proximity to the Wuxi Mountain, which translates to Five Lion Mountain in English. This submerged city, which had been inhabited for centuries, now serves as an underwater tourist attraction for adventurous travelers and diving enthusiasts. Built during the Tang Dynasty in 621 AD, Xicheng boasts an age of nearly 1,400 years. The city's underwater preservation, resting 131 feet below the surface, has shielded its homes, temples, structures, and paved roads from the ravages of wind, rain, and sun. It's believed to be massive, likely spanning over 60 football fields, featuring an astounding 265 arches throughout the city. This lost city's distinctiveness extends to its architectural design, with 5 entrance gates, contrary to the usual 4, and intricate stonework dating back to the Ming and Qing dynasties. The city walls themselves trace their origins to the 16th century. In 2001, the Chinese government initiated an expedition to explore the submerged metropolis, and Xicheng was rediscovered. In 2011, images and descriptions published by Chinese National Geography piqued the public and researcher interest in this enigmatic sunken city. Divers and researchers have diligently documented Xicheng's well-preserved structures, carvings, guardian lions, and arches, making efforts to map and protect this underwater relic. As a result, Xicheng has been officially declared a historical relic under the protection of the Zhejiang province. The city's chilling and mesmerizing presence, frozen beneath the lake's surface, continues to intrigue and beckon those who seek to uncover the truth of the past. 3. Den Nut Gods. In the heart of Bruges in Belgium, there stands a house with a history that sends chills down the spine. Dating back to 1802, it was once part of a landscape that included a nunnery and an Augustinian monastery, divided by the gentle flow of the River Ray. These two holy institutions were rumored to be linked by an underground tunnel, a passage that remained unused as the monks and nuns crossed the river via a bridge. The tale takes a chilling turn when Hortense, a young novice on the path to becoming a nun, becomes the subject of forbidden desire. A young priest, tormented by his feelings for her, couldn't resist the allure. He discovered the long-forgotten underground passage, and temptation led him to the nunnery in search of Hortense. Hortense reciprocated his affections, but struggled with the forbidden love. The monk's nightly visits created a complicated and dangerous dance of desire. And as the tension mounted, he grew increasingly desperate and, some say, violent. Legend has it that the monk, ultimately consumed by his jealousy and anger, resorted to violence, stabbing Hortense and fleeing with her lifeless body. Soon after, the nuns began to witness the ghosts of their departed sisters, haunting the halls with their spectral presence. Some nuns, deeply disturbed by these apparitions, left and never returned. The ghost of a woman in white, and at times the monk, wandered the house, evoking an unsettling atmosphere. Centuries later, the Unlach family from England took residence in this eerie house, only to experience encounters with these vengeful spirits. Seeking answers, they enlisted the help of a medium named Eglinton. As Eglinton delved into the spiritual realm, he was stricken with convulsions and nearly fell into a coma. But during this harrowing experience, he claimed to have communicated with the ghosts of the ill-fated nun and priest. The priest confessed to a tragic tale of love gone awry, admitting to stabbing Hortense and burying her lifeless body. He beseeched Eglinton to pray for him, acknowledging his dreadful deed. The nun's ghost corroborated the priest's confession and urged Eglinton to pray for her killer, although she refused to reveal his name, stating only that he was Italian and 31 years old. To this day, the spirits of the nun in her white dress and the remorseful priest are said to linger on the property. They're never seen together and vanish around midnight, destined to wander the grounds eternally searching for their lost love. A haunting tale that lingers in the very walls of the Bruges haunted house. 2. Rolling Hills Asylum. In East Bethany, New York, the Rolling Hills Asylum is a place with a chilling history that's earned it a reputation as one of the most haunted sites in the state and the world. Established on January 1, 1827, this former asylum has a legacy marked by horrifying tales and at least 1,700 documented deaths over 2 centuries. Originally known as the Genesee County Poorhouse, Rolling Hills Asylum was a refuge for the mentally and physically disabled, as well as widows, orphans, and anyone struggling financially or unable to care for themselves. It served as a place of last resort for the most vulnerable in society, but many who entered its doors never left. With an overwhelming number of people passing through, nearly 2,000 documented deaths are recorded, but there are countless more undocumented fatalities shrouded in mystery and despair. The notoriety of Rolling Hills Asylum as a paranormal hotspot has made it a subject of fascination and fear, earning it a spot on various television shows, including Ghost Asylum, ghost hunters, destination fear, paranormal challenge, and even a promotion for FX's American Horror Story Asylum. This abandoned institution carries with it a palpable aura of the unknown, drawing in those who seek to explore its gruesome past. The asylum is now privately owned by Sharon Coyle, who, after experiencing paranormal activity during her visit in 2008, felt a deep connection to the place. Determined to preserve its history and the stories of the lost souls who once resided there, she took ownership of the property, ensuring that its legacy endures. Today, Rolling Hills Asylum opens its doors to the public on select dates in October, inviting the curious to learn about its history and for the brave to engage in respectful encounters with lingering spirits. A self-guided 3-hour tour, known as a psych hold, allows visitors to explore the expansive 60,000 square foot building, providing a glimpse into the unsettling history that lingers within its abandoned walls. 1. Ross Island. In the midst of the Indian Ocean, over 800 miles from mainland India, lies the eerily abandoned Ross Island. Measuring less than 1/3 of a square mile, this small speck of land harbors a chilling history and is now shrouded in a thick blanket of lush foliage. The remnants of a once thriving British colonial settlement are entwined within massive ficus tree roots, while a grand ballroom where couples once waltzed stands overrun by nature. Ross Island's sinister past dates back to the aftermath of the Indian Mutiny in 1857, a pivotal moment in India's struggle for independence. In response to the rebellion, British colonists established a remote penal settlement on the Andaman and Nicobar archipelago to quell dissent. Dr. James Patterson Walker arrived on the archipelago in 1858, along with 200 convicts and rebels, and designated Ross Island as the administrative headquarters for this colonial complex. What followed was an era marked by unspeakable cruelty and brutalization of convicts and political prisoners. Inmates, often suffering from diseases like malaria and cholera, were forced to transform the once impenetrable humid forests into a colonial paradise. They constructed lavish structures, including a commissioner's bungalow and a Presbyterian church adorned with stained glass windows from Italy. Ross Island's colonial overlords enjoyed manicured gardens, tennis courts, and swimming pools, while the prisoners lived in overcrowded, disease-ridden conditions. As the Indian independence movement gained momentum in the early 20th century, the need for a proper prison led to the construction of the infamous cellular jail in Port Blair, known for its brutal treatment of Indian prisoners. While the cellular jail closed in 1937, Ross Island's tragic history continued. A powerful earthquake in 1941 resulted in more than 3,000 deaths and severe damage to the island. And shortly after, Japanese forces occupied the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, pillaging Ross Island for resources and constructing bunkers. The Allied forces retook the islands in 1945, leading to the permanent dissolution of the penal colony. Today, Ross Island is administered by the Indian government and serves as a haunting tourist attraction. Nature has reclaimed the land, with gnarled trees enveloping buildings, leaving only the roofless walls as remnants of a once successful colonial past. But beneath the island's picturesque facade lies the forgotten story of decades of colonial oppression, a dark chapter in the history of the British Empire. Ross Island, once hailed as the Paris of the East, now stands as an unlikely memorial to the suffering of the oppressed.
Number 8. The Bom Jesus. Namibia is a country in southwest Africa, and in 2008, someone digging for diamonds in the Namib desert unearthed a treasure. They discovered gold coins that were supposedly part of a shipwreck during the 16th century. The area where the gold was found was dug up, and they soon discovered what they believed was the remains of a shipwreck. Archaeologists were then called in to examine the findings. The Bom Jesus, or the Good Jesus, was a Portuguese ship loaded with valuables that set sail from Portugal on its way to India during the 16th century. It wrecked along the coast of Namibia, but its remains made it to the shore. The Namib Desert in Namibia stretches along the coastline, and that was exactly where the wreckage of the ship was found. While the wreckage was discovered and preserved, it was initially unknown if it was that of the Bom Jesus. Little is written about the vessel outside of a rare 16th century publication that mentioned that the ship was lost. But what was found with the wreckage matched what was carried on Portuguese vessels at the time, helping to identify the ship. A joint effort between the Namibian government and other organizations eventually managed to definitively confirm that the wreckage belonged to the Bom Jesus. And today, work is currently underway to preserve and display some of the remains and artifacts from the ship at a public museum in Lisbon. Number 7. The Death Valley Tourists. It was October of 1996 when a park ranger was flying in a helicopter over Death Valley National Park in California. They were looking for illegal drug activity and they spotted a 1996 green Plymouth Voyager minivan. The park ranger was able to land their helicopter and they managed to get a look at the van. And that's when they discovered that it was a rental. It was covered with dust and it appeared to be stuck in the sand. The park ranger then contacted law enforcement. They discovered that a family from Germany on vacation in California had rented the van months earlier, and they never returned the car to the rental place. Also, the visitors never returned to Germany. So where were they? And what happened? It was a total mystery. Among the missing was 34-year-old Egbert Rimkus, as well as his 10-year-old son George Weber. And joining Rimkus was his 27-year-old girlfriend, Cornelia Meyer, and her 4-year-old son Max Meyer. They were from Dresden, Germany, and had landed in the United States on July 8, 1996, the same day they rented their van at LAX Airport in Los Angeles. Rimkus, Meyer, and the kids traveled to Las Vegas, and on July 22, 1996, they left Vegas and made their way to Death Valley National Park. Death Valley is the location where the hottest temperature on Earth was ever recorded. On July 10, 1913, the highest temperature that was reached was 134 degrees Fahrenheit. When Rimkus and Meyer arrived with the kids, the temperature in the area had reached 115 to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. From Death Valley, the plan was to end up at Yosemite National Park. The group stopped by a visitor center at Death Valley to purchase an information booklet. They were camping in the park and made plans to visit an area known as Mangle Pass, which is a dirt trail. Rimkus or Meyer signed a guest booklet near the abandoned mine at the park, and it noted that they were heading over the pass, which likely meant Mangle Pass. The entry in the visitor's book was signed Connie, Egbert, George, Max, and the abandoned mine may have been the last place they stopped at while visiting the park. When the van they were renting was found in October of 1996, park employees noticed that the tires were shredded while one tire was off the rim. It's believed that they tried driving the van for a certain distance before it was completely useless due to damaged tires. It wasn't the right vehicle to bring to that area due to the rugged terrain and potholes. A four-wheel drive vehicle would have been the better choice, but it made no difference to the family now. A beer bottle believed to be Rimkus or Myers's was then found a quarter of a mile from the van. Inside the van were empty water bottles and sleeping bags, as well as an American flag. It had been taken from the Butte Valley Stone Cabin, which is also known as the Geologist's Cabin. It's a shelter with food and water. Rimkus, Meyer, and the kids were there at some point. Alcohol and children's toys were also located in the vehicle. There was even a spare tire and a jack in the van. Park employees were baffled. And what was really odd was that nothing was found in the van like a passport or ID, although they did find a credit card in the vehicle. Even the keys to the van were missing. A search for the German tourists was underway. Helicopters, horses, and a group of rescue workers searched for the missing people. But they found nothing during their several hours-long search. All they had was the van. 13 years then went by with no leads. Some theories were tossed out like it was a staged scene by Rimkus and Meyer so they could start new lives in the United States, or even South America. But another theory is that they somehow encountered illegal drug activity and were taken out since they were witnesses. It was 2009 when skeletal remains were found by hikers. A member of law enforcement told the press that it was now a criminal investigation, but there was no evidence of foul play. Meyer's passport and bank ID were found at the scene, and so too was a wine bottle and a journal that was written in German. What happened to Rimkus, Meyer, and the children still remains a mystery. Perhaps they underestimated the remoteness of the region. It would have been a good idea for Rimkus and Meyer to let someone know where they were going, but unfortunately, the mystery of the German tourists still haunts Death Valley to this very day. Number 6. The B-29 Doc. The Boeing B-29 Superfortress was an elite bomber developed for World War II. This was a truly amazing weapon of war that could reach 400 miles per hour and fly a mission some 2,500 miles away while loaded with 2,000 pounds worth of bombs. The B-29 Superfortress had a span of 141 feet and was 99 feet long. There were 2 bomb bays to keep the B-29 balanced, plus it was able to hold a crew of 10 to 14 people. One B-29, known as Doc, was built in Wichita, Kansas in March of 1945, but it was never used during the war. It was used as a trainer during the 1950s though, and it was also utilized for radar calibration. It spent some time at China Lake in California, where it was even used as a target for bombing training. The plane earned the nickname Doc because it was part of a group of 7 planes known as the Seven Dwarves. Doc eventually ended up in a plane graveyard in the Mojave Desert. In 1987, a man inquired about the plane, and 12 years later he was able to take the plane and begin the painstaking work of restoration. Doc was able to fly again in 2016 and has been on the airshow circuit ever since. And if you're interested, you can actually take a flight on the plane for the right price. What deserts have you visited so far? Let us know in the comments below, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Number 5. The Wyoming Skull. It was 2023 when Mark Zancanella was hunting elk in the Red Desert located in Wyoming. Zancanella then successfully shot an elk and followed it to the point where it stopped and fell over. But near the elk was something that was extremely bizarre: a human skull. And Zancanella couldn't believe what he saw. It wasn't a complete skull, but Zancanella called law enforcement, and they were able to get it to a forensic anthropologist. Law enforcement was hopeful that something would come of the discovery, but what baffled them was the fact that the skull was found in the middle of nowhere in the Red Desert. If you didn't know, the Red Desert covers an area of over 9,300 square miles and is home to some of North America's most hidden treasures. When the skull was found, a group called Missing People of Wyoming hoped that the skull was that of David Richard Williams. It was November 11, 1980, when David Richard Williams, a 33-year-old man, phoned his wife from a bar in Creston Junction, Wyoming. Williams told his wife that he needed to check on an oil rig, but after that, he would drive home. Williams then got into a vehicle with another man, and that was the last time anybody ever saw him. The man who drove Williams has been considered a suspect in the case. The skull that was found by Zancanella was located in the vicinity of some oil rigs. While there's hope that the remains are identified, David Richard Williams is one of 12 people missing from counties near the location where the skull was discovered. Number 4. The Kitty Hawk P-40. It was 2012 when an oil worker stumbled across a plane in the Egyptian portion of the Sahara that was believed to be lost. The plane that was discovered was a US-built Kitty Hawk P-40, but this one was being used by the British Royal Air Force. The plane belonged to Dennis Copping, who had been missing since June 28, 1942. Copping was a member of the Egyptian 260 Squadron, and they were in Egypt fighting the Germans for control of North Africa. But on that fateful day in June, he was flying from a British Royal Air Force base to another because his plane malfunctioned and was in need of repairs. It was reported that Copping became lost during his flight. Other British pilots tried to get him back on course, but their efforts failed. Sadly, Copping's plane became low on fuel, so he had no choice but to crash land the Kitty Hawk P-40 in the Sahara. When the wreckage was discovered, it was noted to be well preserved. Also, it was reported that the remains of someone were found in the area of the wreckage, and it was believed to be Köpping. What's theorized is that Köpping successfully landed his plane, but he was a long way from a town or village where he could get assistance. He could have used his radio, but when it was discovered, it appeared to have been damaged during the crash. A parachute was opened, and that may have been some sort of shelter for Köpping because of the extreme heat of the Sahara. Supplies may have been minimal, and at some point Köpping must have decided to walk away from the wreckage to find help. It was a decision that sealed his fate. Köpping's remains were found some 3 miles from the crash site. A piece of the parachute and some other personal items traced to the remains of Köpping. The wreckage and remains were then transported back to Britain, hopefully giving some type of closure to Köpping's living relatives. Number 3. The Nazca Lines. There are hundreds of mysterious drawings or geoglyphs that were discovered in the Peruvian desert near the town of Nazca. They were created by the Nazca people sometime between 200 BC and 600 AD. But here is the most amazing part of the discovery. They're only viewable from the air. This is very interesting and must have been an amazing accomplishment for the ancient culture. These lines and drawings were discovered in the 1920s by Peruvian archaeologist Toribio Maya Ezepe. And to this day, it's unclear why these things were carved into the ground. The impressive nature of these lines didn't become widespread knowledge until 1941, when Paul Kossak saw them from an airplane. He was absolutely blown away by the design and precision of these drawings. Some were geometric shapes, some resembled animals, and others seemed to depict various plants. Kossak theorized that the drawings were linked to astronomy somehow, but a study during the late 1960s disputed that claim. Researchers found more geoglyphs during the 2010s, and what has been found includes 300 designs that are geometric, plus some 70 designs of animals and plants. The work of the Nazca continues to impress people to this very day. These geoglyphs have survived due to the desert environment they're in. There's little rain, low wind, and erosion isn't a problem in this section of the Peruvian desert, making this a perfect spot to preserve ancient geoglyphs. Number 2. Apache Junction Jane Doe. It was August 1992 when police near Phoenix, Arizona discovered the remains of someone in the surrounding desert. The area was Apache Junction, a community located east of Phoenix. When the remains were initially reviewed, it was believed that the person was a female who was somewhere around 16 to 18 years of age when they passed away. Police had clues as to who the person was. There was clothing, jewelry, and a token for public transportation. But the trail went cold and investigators labeled this person as Apache Junction Jane Doe. But in November of 2023, the person was properly identified as Melody Harrison. She was 15 years old when she went missing in June of 1992. She was reported by her family as missing, but they asked to take her name off the list of missing children in 1996 because they were under the impression that she ran away from home and didn't want to return. Number 1. The Utah Monolith. If you've watched Stanley Kubrick's 2001 sci-fi masterpiece, A Space Odyssey, then you're likely familiar with the monolith. It was reported in 2020 that the Utah Department of Public Safety discovered a monolith while flying over the Utah desert. What they found was a 10-foot-tall monolith made of metal. The Utah Department of Public Safety was puzzled about the origins of this monolith. They had the opportunity to view it up close and were stumped about how the piece was placed in the desert. But they do have some theories and are pretty certain it was placed there as a stunt by a group of people. The Utah Department of Public Safety said that the item was put on federal land, which is a crime. Apparently, the item is still there, but officials refuse to disclose the location due to its remoteness. They don't want people trying to find the item because there's a good possibility that they'd get lost in the process. Do you know of any bizarre discoveries that you'd like us to cover? Let us know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching. We hope to see you in the next one. Bye for now.